Hi guys, my name is Brittany and I'm really excited to share both of the books that I picked out this week. I teach 6th grade, so most of the books in my classroom library are young adult books, so that's what I went with. The first book that I picked out this week is called Mañana Land by Pam Munoz Ryan, which most people would know from Esperanza Rising. I actually got this book when I was a Scholastic Insider a couple years ago, and it was my favorite book that I got as an insider. I really liked the message and I really liked the story. This book is about a young boy named Max. He's like 10, 12 years old. And it's kind of about him figuring out his own cultural identity. The book is set in an unknown Hispanic country, kind of seems like Central or South America, but it's a country kind of in political turmoil. And Max has a lot of conflicts with other boys his age. There's a lot of class conflict. He wants to go to a football camp and his family tells him no, and so when all of the other boys go off to this camp, he's really sad. But then he actually finds out that his family is involved in kind of the version of the Underground Railroad that exists in this unnamed Hispanic country. And one day Max's father has to go off to get a copy of Max's birth certificate. He's gone for weeks and weeks and weeks. He has to kind of be able to prove Max's citizenship so he can play on the football league this upcoming year. And Max is home alone when somebody brings by a young girl who needs to be taken to the next safe place on the railroad. So he has a choice that he has to make right then and there on if he's going to leave her alone because he's scared or if he's going to take her. So he decides that he's going to go and he's going to take her on this journey. And he doesn't know what he's doing at first, but then he realizes that through the stories and songs that have been shared with him ever since he was growing up, he does actually know what to do and where to go. So he goes on a really exciting journey with this girl named Isadora, and it's really, I don't know, it's a really great adventure story, but at the end there's this whole like coming together between Max and his family when he's finally back home, and they realize that maybe they should have shared a little bit more of his heritage with him, but he was able to figure it out on his own through the journey that he went through. His mother was also a refugee and she left when he was a baby, so he kind of gets to feel like he's connected with her after going on this journey too, and he kind of gets to connect with his own culture. And some of the other boys are even nicer to him when he comes back, even though they don't know what he's done. They just see that he's changed and he's more confident in himself. A passage that I really like that demonstrates this in chapter 29 of this book says, Max knew who he was too, someone who was true of heart and proud of the legacy into which he'd been born. He came from a long line of stone masons who built bridges that never collapsed and allowed one side of the river to hold hands with the other. Football was in his blood. The talent hadn't skipped him, and with hard work and practice, he had made the village team and might one day make the national team. He was a guardian of the hidden ones. And then it goes on to talk about everything that he's learned and become. But I thought this book was really great. Look into Hispanic culture. I loved all the Spanish thrown in there. I was a Spanish minor in undergrad, and I just thought it was a really neat read, and I loved having it on my shelves. The other book that I picked this week is called Amina's Voice, which I actually had not read until today, but I read it this morning on my prep and I really liked it. I'm surprised I hadn't picked this one up yet. This one is by Hannah Khan, and it's about a girl in 6th grade named Amina. Amina is a Pakistani American and her best friend is Sujin. She's Korean and her family is currently working on their citizenship, so we kind of follow both of their cultures. Even though Amina is the main character, we get a lot of Sujin's story too. They befriend a girl named Emily who had bullied them when they were younger. And there is a passage about that where Amina says, after Sujin offers to let them work together on a group project, it goes, "Thanks guys." Emily smiles at me, but I just manage to purse my lips together and nod. I don't understand. Doesn't Sujin remember all the crappy things that Emily has done for the past few years? Like the time she pinched her nose and squealed while Julie said something smelled like it had died when Sujin brought kimchi in her lunch? Or when they both scoffed at us and said, "Speak English, you're in America," while we were teaching each other phrases in Urdu and Korean. Or, worst of all, when she and Julie spread a rumor at school that Sujin's parents served dog meat at their downtown Milwaukee restaurant, Park Avenue Deli. Luke would bark under his breath every time he passed Sujin for months. There are a lot of different cultural conflicts that take place in this book. Sujin is working on her citizenship, and in the process of doing that, she decides that she wants a new name, and so she's trying to come up with a new name for herself, and she's trying to kind of reject her home culture. And so Amina is trying to decide if that's something she needs to do too. Should she also be rejecting her culture? Should she be embracing it? She's also kind of struggling to figure out how she and Emily, the girl who used to bully her, are going to be friends. She has to overcome some of those cultural differences, and she also has some struggles within herself with the Quran. Her uncle comes to visit from Pakistan, and his interpretation of the Quran is much more rigid than her family's interpretation. He thinks that it's not okay for her to be singing and enjoying music, and that's what she wants to do, like, with her life. So she has to decide if that's something that she thinks is okay too. So overall, there's lots of different cultures that are mentioned in here. It's a really multicultural book, which I didn't expect completely when I picked it up, so I was really surprised. I thought it was a really great read, so if you do not have this one on your shelves and you teach middle school aged kids, I would highly recommend it. I really liked both of these books that I picked this week. I hope you like what I wrote about them and that I might have inspired you to pick one up for your classroom library. Have a great week, everyone.